Um, we have a pretty insane surprise for you all. In just a moment, we will have a celebrity.
A real celebrity guest in our midst.
Celebrity guest on our podcast.
We don't know how to act, clearly. I feel like the universe just pushed us into the deep end without our little water wings on.
Yeah, we're in the ocean right now. All right, so just strap in, because here we go. I'm gonna give Haley credit for that, because I was like, Haley, how do you pronounce his last name? And they were like, Franzese. They knew, they looked it up.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem.
That would get caught slipping.
Okay, good. Okay, but we're actually going to have you introduce yourself to everyone, if that's okay. We already did a little like now we did like a freak out moment. And we were like, oh, we have someone special. So if you want to say hey to everyone, you can introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Danny Franzese. It's nice to be here.
Yes. Okay. So for those that don't know who Danny Franzese is, an actor, a comedian. What else? What else would you like title yourself as?
Oh, God. I am a multi-hyphenate, for real. Activist, plus-size model, writer, producer. I do everything. I just like to just say that my main vocation is I'm a purveyor of joy.
Oh, I love that. Yes. Okay.
I try to find mediums to do that in, so.
Yeah. Well,
but if I don't have a hyphen with something next to it, I'll figure it out in the next 5 years.
Right. Oh, great. See, that's great. I like to rebrand every month, and Haley hates it. My best friend, graphic designer, that designs my logos that keep changing, so I totally get that. For everyone freaking out, how would they know you, basically? Like, we all know, but like, let's just I guess talk about it. You have been in so many movies.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, people know me mostly from the movie Mean Girls. I was in a ton of other movies like Bully and I Spit on Your Grave, and I was on TV shows like HBO's Looking and Recovery Road on Freeform and ABC's Conviction, and guest starring on a bunch of crazy things like Party Down and The Comeback and stuff like that. And I'm also on stage a lot and plays and do stand-up around the world and just stay busy. I'm an entertainer.
Yes, for real. Like a for real one. Like you are, like when we introduced you, we were like, this is a celebrity, everyone. Like we have like a high key celebrity coming on right now.
Yeah.
She's a quintuple threat.
Yes. For real though. I couldn't believe that I Spit on Your Grave one. That was like, I was like, what? Okay.
That was the main reason to do that one. It was kind of like, oh, no one's going to expect this, so why not do something that's so unexpected?
Yeah, that's incredible. Okay. All right. Whew, okay. So, Haley, have we had our fangirl moment? How do we feel? We feel good? I feel good.
Feeling good. Yep.
Okay. All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty of the episode. So, we had Tori that reached out to us about you being on our episode. Have you heard, have you listened to any of the podcasts or anything like that? That's fine if you haven't, believe me.
I haven't had a chance to check it out yet, but I love what you guys are doing. I read about your mission statement and what you're up to, and I think it's so important to have more voices like you out there. So I'm happy to join in.
Yes, we're so excited. Okay. So I'm looking here. Our followers know we have an outline, so it's not weird for us to be like, okay, let's look at the outline, everyone. Let's see what's up. Because we have 2 neurodivergent babies that run this podcast. Mm-hmm. So we have to have our outline. Let's see. I think the main thing, Haley, that we wanted to talk about with Danny is the plus size representation in Hollywood, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what Hollywood is getting wrong with the representation and how that's impacted Danny.
Yeah. So share your story with us.
I'm curious, what do you think's wrong first? What do you think's wrong from your point of view? I'd love to comment on what you guys feel.
I would say that there's definitely a lack of representation of like plus size people and fat people in like positive roles, or like not being a joke, or not being like the funny sidekick, or like the butt of the joke. But there's also, I feel like there's a lack of representation as far as like queer fat people or people of color that are also fat that don't play into stereotypes.
How do you feel, Samantha? I'm
Um,
flipping the script. I'm interviewing you on your
that's
podcast.
fine. Pretty much the same. We actually did an episode about like being the fat friend, and that there were like different types of like fat friends. You had like the butt of the joke, like Haley said. You had the emotional support friend, and I feel like those are what's portrayed in the media. Like, and if you have like a main character that is a fat bodied individual, they just like their story arc is like they become hot because they lose weight, or they have like this glow
Mm.
up. And it's just like, I don't know, they don't get actual like storylines about what it's like to even like have the fat experience, or have normal stories where, you know, you have all these action movies or romance movies where it's like the guy gets the girl or the girl gets the guy, and it's like thin bodied, you know? It's just like there's no actual story development or character development when it comes to bigger bodies.
Mhm.
I definitely think for me. I think the sexualization is something that I want to see more of. Like, I also think that like we could be heroes, we could like be hotel managers. It doesn't have to always be part of the storyline what we look like. I think that as plus size people reflect more of what the norm is in our country, it would be nice if our media reflected more of that. I have seen them do some improvements in some way. I walked into a Target the other day and I noticed there wasn't like one uh, just plain white model. Like, everybody was different looking in every ad. And I said, this must be so weird for someone like in my parents' generation who grew up where everything looked like one thing,
Mm-hmm.
to walk in and
Yeah.
everything looks like something else. And I think that that I wonder what that's going to do to a younger generation in a good way, that they get older and they start to see, like, you would, if I asked you, name, if you're in a department store and you see somebody in an ad, name things about them that, without seeing the ad, name things about them you already know, and they probably would say things like they're fit, they're probably attractive, they're, so it's like to see different things like that and have that be the different norm. I think that that makes people look attractive. I think people start, people can grow up with the choices of thinking that multi people are attractive, and we know this from other cultures. There's other cultures where being fat is looked at as like the most desirable thing, and it's kind of like, well, that's just how their culture was. Our culture is run on the white male gaze, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I feel even as queer people, the things we like were told to us by some white guy in the 60s that decided this is what gay people will probably like when we appeal to them. And I think that it's like, that's what then it ends up being what we actually are attracted to, because there's so many interesting things about it. I was talking to Rick Overton, a comedian, and he was saying that uh, as a species we just go towards light, just like every other animal, and that's why we believe everything that's on the TV, or we believe everything that's on our phone, is we're just like moths to a flame. We're just like, the light box is telling the truth. It can't be lying. It's the light, and it's like I feel like the light has to reflect all of us.
Right.
Absolutely.
We actually did, on our last episode, we were having a conversation about fat representation and how fat bodies are treated in the queer community. Do you think that, because I grew up in the queer community from a queer household, Haley and I both identify as queer. So it was weird the differences between my mom's generation, like their generation, and this generation, and like the media, such as like I grew up on Will and Grace. And I didn't realize like how anti-fat Will and Grace was until I tried to watch it as an adult. Like, do you think that that is still prevalent in this generation's queer community of being
It's
anti-fat?
interesting you say that, because I feel like in the 90s when Will and Grace really came out, the queer community was anti-fat. And
Yeah.
I do see a shift in that changing. I like to think, in the grand scheme of things, maybe I had a small part of that with my role in Looking, because as far as I know, I think I was the first like queer fat person, like gay fat guy, to be having sex scenes in a gay thing. Like I had never seen that before I had done it. And
Right.
it's a little frustrating to be the person that does it because I want to see it. I want to be influenced by it as well. But
Yeah.
I did get a letter from somebody that was like, I saw Mean Girls 10 years ago, and I don't really remember you, and don't get it twisted. This is a fan letter, but I don't even know what an Eddie Bear is, and that was my character on Looking. They're like, but I was dancing on a dance floor, and this guy walked up to me who's way out of my league, and he was like, "You're like my Eddie Bear. Come with me." And we've been dating for 3 months, so keep doing whatever you're doing, bro. Like, and I really think that's what it is. It's just like, everything I do is to be visible doing something. Like even last night, I did the Mr. Bear LA pageant, and it was like just to be visible in the bear community, trying that stuff. If I could do it, why couldn't somebody else who felt like they could? A quote unquote celebrity would. It's very rare for them to want to go and do something like that. That's a small part of a sub community. But I thought if I do it, maybe there's a lawyer that thinks he can't, or someone else that feels like they're too out of a subgroup that they can't go back and support the subgroup. They're like,
Right.
well, if he did it, you could do it. He didn't even win, and you might win. Like, it kind of inspires people. So I'm constantly trying to figure out ways to do things to make a mark or to get into a place that I wasn't before, or leave because I've already seen what it does. I've seen the gift of the fruits of being represented places and being the person that does that. So I guess initially, when I became famous, I was like, well, what's my dream now? Like, my dream was to be famous when I was 12, and I'm famous now. So like, now what is the dream? And I guess the dream is to try to like make it easier for young queer kids, easier for young Italian kids, easier for young gay kids to feel like they fit in. And I won't rest until, gay people are comfortable, and even the most like, you know, outlandish looking or most abnormal looking ones of the queer community are able to walk down the street and be comfortable. Then, the two, white cis males on a collar stack with a baby, shouldn't really be too comfortable until everybody's comfortable, And I feel the same way about fat people and about Italian people. I won't rest until everybody doesn't stare at someone when they bring sausage and peppers to lunch.
Oh, yes, yum. We would never. We would be like, yum, yes. That's our kind of party. That's our kind of party.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's kind of when you spoke about being like seen, that's a big thing of why this podcast is even in existence, is because we were both like, let's step out, let's be seen. We know what type of hate we're going to get. We know what type of comments we're going to get because it's the internet, Not only are we, we're women, so it's a thing, but also like being plus size women, it's just like we get all the just loving comments about just how terrible we are and disgusting. And it's like, it's worth it for the fat bodied people that are scared to be seen if they can just like step out and wear the dress or wear the outfit that makes them feel confident, but maybe shows their belly. Like that was like, just to be seen was a big thing with us, of like inspiring people to do it despite what comes with it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the first time I saw like a plus size girl showing her midriff comfortably. And I remember it was a little like shocking at first. I was like, oh, she's just like got it out there. And then I was like, that looks kind of cute on her. And that's a slay. And it's like, eventually it takes a while to deprogram what we see and what we think, And now I love when a plus size girl has her midriff out. I think it looks great, especially, when people are accentuating, that's not the word. Accentuating like a part of their body that they love the shape of or something.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of curvy girls who like slay now because of curvy girls that have paved the way to open up that, Men have a little bit longer to go in that realm. Mm-hmm. Men just think that, I know men have been allowed to get away with being plus size a lot more. But it's never been like a fashion plate. It's been like cool to not care, to like not,
Mm-hmm.
To not take care of their nails or their hair, or like to like do that, And I think that as we're coming to this place, like, I mean, I remember when I was in high school, they had to invent the word metrosexual just to like say it's okay to like wash your balls. Like, I mean, like, it's so stupid, And we're so post that it's like now we're in a place where like, guys can go get a manicure and it's not, emasculating to them or whatever. Like, we live in such a toxic masculine environment. We're still trying to get away of all the rhetoric that our parents and grandparents were fed through media. And
Yeah.
as media is changing, it's going to take a whole nother 2 generations. We might not be on the planet when we see all these changes happening. But the good news is we live in an age of information. Someone in Ohio, their favorite band could be somebody in New York City's favorite band because they can instantly hear the music. Whereas like it took a long time for things like that in the past to get around. And we're losing in some way, we're losing some individuality in states, because people are becoming more of like a mass culture. But I think in this mass culture is a wokeness and a tolerance and an acceptance and an openness to sort of like experience other people. They've heard other people's stories rather than just relying on a fat person in the movie to be the joke. They know a fat influencer who they adore and who has taught them, why their life is beautiful and valid. So I think what you guys are doing is great. We all have to keep it up and just be visible. And it's not like I'm always saying fat is beautiful, although I think there are many beautiful fat people. I think what's beautiful is loving yourself. What's beautiful is accepting where you are in the day that you're in and not abusing yourself or limiting your ability to do things. Rather than body positivity, I love body acceptance because it's like the term, because it's sort of like as we move forward with all of this stuff, it's, we might want to change. I quit sugar in June. So like I've lost 30 pounds. Does that mean I'm any less a part of the plus size community? I mean, I'm still plus size. I still have things about my body I want to improve. I'm still got the body dysmorphia in my head. I don't even feel the 30-pound weight loss. So it's like, to me, it's just like, you have to just keep going and love yourself in the day. I really feel like choices that you make in the, on a day really don't affect you till several days later. Like, if I have McDonald's today, I won't feel like crap till 3 days later from now. Like,
yeah,
it's kind of like, but if I make a good choice today, I'm setting up future Danny. Past Danny's responsible for future Danny.
Yeah, that's a big thing that we say here is we say live your life in the body that you have right now. Because so many fat bodied individuals and plus size individuals, they like don't experience life until they have lost the 30 pounds, right? Until
the shocker is you make all the money, you lose all the weight, and you're still empty inside.
Right.
That isn't the thing that fixes it. Like you need to work on that, but even before you get a lot of that stuff sometimes. And in an odd way, my whole family has pretty much been plus size, if they're not plus size now. And my brother, when at one point in his 20s, lost a ton of weight, and he was just like, I miss my belly. I miss being able to like hold my drink there, or like, or like feeling like I'm always cold now. Like there was just things like that were different that he just didn't want to be. And he ended up maybe not going all the way back to where he was, but getting to a place where he felt, beefy area, I guess, where he felt more comfortable and being more where he was. Our bodies are sometimes naturally meant to be certain ways, and I think the more we accept it, the less we abuse it, the less we push it further in that way, or we don't resign to a prison of being a fat person as much as celebrating who we are in the day, and don't think of it that way and try to find out, because it could be frustrating for a regular sized person to just say, oh, we're going to that thing tonight. All right, I'm going to grab a black dress and stop at any store and pick up a black dress and walk out like it's nothing. Or, the same thing for a guy, a pair of jeans, or just for a plain white shirt, I have to drive minimum 35 minutes, like to like the nearest like big and tall store. If I, last night as I was getting ready, I had an extra, thank God, but I spilled coffee on a white shirt. That was a big part of what I was doing. Some people could run to Target and go get a white shirt. I can't. So it's interesting how, like, that impacts our life in a lot of ways. It's more expensive to be, plus size, a different, I like to say above average.
Yeah.
Because you know what I mean? Because there's a lot of things about me that I'm above average in. And it's like, my size is just one of them.
Yeah, I love that.
Such a good point, though. Like,
yeah.
I am still very much a plus size person, but I got weight loss surgery and I'm a smaller plus size person than I used to be. And that was something that really I wasn't prepared for, even though I knew, like, just being able to go in and pick up a shirt if I need it, or, rip my pants, I can go get a new pair. Like, it's not having to drive out of town or order it online and wait for it. And everybody deserves to be able to do that.
I also have a friend who did the weight loss surgery too, and then like completely went to the dark side. Like, she did get thinner, but like she's like look at this fat girl here, and like really making fun of old pictures of herself. And I'm like, some of us are still in this space, like, you know, like the instance, and I still feel like she's covering up for whatever it is that wasn't solved when the surgery happened. So it's like, you really have to face a lot of our internal demons, you know, because looks are only go a certain amount of way. It's like somebody could be absolutely quote unquote textbook gorgeous, but they could have an ugly heart, and immediately they don't look. You know, when you see somebody that you think is pretty, and then you realize that they're not nice, or not, or they're, you know, rude, and then you're like, oh, they're unkind, and immediately their looks fade. I think that the beauty from within is the thing we have to find first, you know, and a lot of that deals with just like your comfort level in your house. I mean, I could literally be in such a better mood if I'm wearing a pair of pants that fit, you know, rather than sitting all day feeling like my clothes are trying to strangle me, you know, or like just being comfortable, like knowing that, okay, I'm going to not fly this airline because I won't be comfortable in their seat, or I'm going to make sure that it's going to cost a little more, but when I'm on tour, I'm getting SUVs instead of getting little mini cars. I'm not getting the cheapest little whatever car to get around, and I'm thinking about my safety and my comfort. And it's a couple of bucks along the way for a little bit of extra. It's an above average price for an above average person, but the above average comfort ends up making a huge life change within me.
Yeah, absolutely. We have like our podcast is like, I guess, a little controversial in the community because we do have like Haley has gotten the weight loss surgery. I do like intuitive eating, and I have done like medical weight loss through my doctors. And so like we are all about like raising the voices of fat bodied individuals. That's the whole reason why we're here. But sometimes in the community, they're like, they don't accept you if you have lost a lot of weight. Like there is like backlash with it. And we're like, we're human, like we're allowed to feel good. And sometimes to feel good, you have to lose weight. But that doesn't mean that we're still not fat bodied individuals. That still doesn't mean that we're not like representing the community the best way we can. And it's just been,
or
it's
I've
been
had
a
that
wild
life
ride.
experience for many years.
Right. So it's been a wild ride to be like, what? Guys, like we're still fat. Like it's, we still get hate comments. Like I promise, like I personally, when I go to Target, like the plus size section is so sad, but I want to be a Target girly, but they just don't have cute clothes for plus size people anymore. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's my Target because I live in like the South. I don't know what it is, but like.
What is intuitive eating, by the way?
So intuitive eating is basically I'm like more in my body, not in my head. Cause like I had I suffer from binge eating disorder. So binge eating disorder is like all in your head. Like you're so out of whack with your body that you're literally you're eating to cover up emotion. Like for me, it was very emotional. Like I was self-soothing through food. And so intuitive eating, it's like I basically, when my body is like, hey, we're hungry, I'm like, okay, I'm going to eat what I want that day that I know makes me feel good. So instead of like eating, if I'm like having a bad day and I know that like I want a McDonald's burger, like instead of like the past me, I would get like 3 burgers or, you know, a McChicken and a number 7 or whatever, which is like 2 burgers. But I'll like, okay, I know I want a burger. That's what I need right now. So I'm going to have 1 burger. And if it doesn't make me feel good, I know that this isn't actually what I needed. So I'm going to switch to eat something else that maybe does make me feel good.
Yeah.
It's just basically about like tuning into your feelings when you're eating, not having like a screen in front of you. So I don't eat with like my phone or a TV on. And I'm just trying to kind of like go with the flow of like what my body's telling me that it needs. And surprisingly, it needs like more like healthier stuff than I thought it would. But I also don't restrict myself to what I want, if that makes sense.
The over restriction can definitely, I also have BED, like it can, over restricting it just ends up in you binging anyway, rather than having the burger that you want when you want it and just moving on. Yeah,
exactly. And then like listening to my body when it's like, hey, we're full. I'm like, okay, like instead of being like, this is really delicious, I'm going to keep eating because it tastes so good. It's like, let's just take a second. Let's just take a second and see how we feel after we just pause for a moment here and like do kind of like a body check-in.
Yeah, so being more mindful about it. Yeah.
Being more mindful, yeah, because I used to have like a lot of dairy, even though, and like cheese, because it's so freaking good. Like, who doesn't love some cheese? But like, it wrecked my body. But it was like, I was like, I don't care. I'm gonna have some ice cream. Like, that's what my head was wanting, and my body was trying to tell me, like, girl, you can't have this. Like, in your like lattes, like, get oat milk, baby. Like, you can still have a latte, but like, milk isn't for you, you know. So it's just about like being more mindful, exactly, and present when you're eating. To try to like, you know, be healthier for yourself, you know, not punish your body anymore. All right. So we talked about what you're doing now? I know that you did the is Mr. Bear? Is that what it's called?
I'm doing a bunch of things right now. It's hard to like pinpoint everything. They're all over the place. So I've got like a stand-up show here, a stand-up show there. If you're on my Instagram at What's Up Danny, you can kind of find out what I'm up to. But I'm starting a new play. I do a lot of watercolor. I'm doing stand-up. I'm trying to just, until the strike's over, doing a bunch of like little gigs here and there, having a good time. But I've been staying really busy.
Okay.
And, I also have a lot of like influencer stuff and activism stuff. I'm working with a lot of different places, but Big Fig Mattress is one of them.
Yeah.
I'm still doing, I still do I'm a spokesperson for them, and I'm on their advisory board. We have like a collective of all different plus size influencers. That's a way that like I think companies can really do good and really start to understand what it's like to be in the shoes. Big Fig, I don't know if you're familiar, they're like a mattress company made for people with a bigger figure. And most of the people who work in Big Fig don't have bigger figures. So in order to understand the plus size community, they've created a collective of all plus size luminaries. And when we're all together, it's really interesting how caring this company is about finding out what it's like for our experience to like live in a fat body, be a bigger person, our diversity aspects, how we feel about all of our diversity and inclusion stuff. I've never seen anybody work so hard and accomplish something so great. And so I just encourage more companies out there to do stuff like that. Like if you want to know what it's like, hire people like us. You can tell when stuff's made for bigger people, and there are no bigger people that are giving any input.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I love that there's even plus size mattress companies now that exist, period. Like mattresses are definitely not like, if you have even just like, I'm the larger person in my marriage, and if you don't have a plus size mattress, it wears out fast, it sags on one side more. Like that representation so important.
The reason I love this company is because I've broken like 3 beds. Like, you know what I mean? Not even not even just my own. Yeah. Some guy took me home one time, and I was like, "You knew you took a big boy home. Like, it's not my fault you got these IKEA slot broken ass beds." Like, like, but this bed's like it's so funny because I love talking about it, because I'm not only like a spokesperson, but I'm like a geek about the manufacturing, and we just visited the manufacturing plant, so it's like even more. So like, but the frame is made out of railroad steel. And the like, and the other part's made out of the box is made out of solid oak, like the Amish make, like real old school manufacturing. Like they didn't do it, they don't make it like they used to kind of stuff like.
Right.
And then the mattress itself has so many different processes with all these springs and cooling foam, memory foam, and cooling gel, and like. And then they're even thinking about like they made this incredible. It's not on the market yet, but they made like an incredible cooling blanket. And I love this blanket. Like when you put it on, like as hot as you can get, the blanket stays cold. And it's just like so when they were giving us prototypes to like test and stuff, we were like, oh, it would be nice to have a bigger one. So when we turn over, so they're just really making sure that every single thing that we need as a bigger sized person is thought about and discussed. If it's something that they don't have, they decided to omit it after like a conversation and a jury of fat people. Like it's amazing and so diverse. Like we're all different kinds of people. And we just recently all met for the first time together in person, because we've been doing a lot of our collective stuff online, because we started just shortly after started during like all of the stuff with the panty. And so now we're in this place where we're just like jamming. Like, I mean, we really were making such great progress. And there's a lot of content from that week that hasn't come out yet that I think when people see it, they're going to be really happy, because it's like just plus size persons really getting together and having these kind of discussions. And they broke us off into sections, and we had discussions about the intersectionalities of our identities. So it was like, they had some of us spread off and talk about being queer and fat, some people being people of color and being fat, some people being men and being, getting across, so we can get the point across about how that changes our experience. We're not all just one type of person. You can't just put give a generic rule book for what our needs are.
Right. Yeah.
I love that
Absolutely.
they actually listen too, because there's so many companies that approach marginalized groups, and they'll be like, we want to know what you want, and people will tell them, and then they're like, okay, well, here's one thing sort of from that list, and we're not doing the rest of it, but thank you.
I'll tell you, it's got to be an expensive endeavor to have all of us do this, and they're not, we're not really making a lot of our rates to do the kind of thing that we're doing. But I have to say, I tell my management team and everybody all the time, I want to work with them forever, because the stuff that they're doing is literally revolutionary when it comes to caring about a community that they're supplying a need for. And a good night's sleep is so important, and God, yeah. To me, it's just like, for them to realize that, for them, I mean, they could probably still make the money with spending some money on a couple of clever commercials and still do as well as they're doing, but they want to grow with this company thinking about the people. And now when I take a brand deal, I'm holding everybody up to the pedestal that I have Big Fig on, because it's like, you really have to at least do some of the things that they're doing, because they're literally racking their brain trying to figure out ways to make it better for their clientele. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth it too. I know one of my friends in mutuals, they're like a bigger body person. They were wanted to get a Big Fig mattress for them and their husband, and they were like, y'all, I'm doing I'm a tarot reader, so they're also tarot reader. We're in the same community. So they were like, I'm doing tarot readings because I'm trying to get my bag up so I can get this Big Fig mattress. And it was so funny because they were like, no other mattress, this is the one. I'm a big
I literally
body
said,
thing.
if I ever get rid of this thing, I've had it now for so many years, but if I ever get rid of it, the box spring part that has the made of the wood, I would turn it into a stand-up stage in someone's backyard. It's that strong.
Oh my God.
Really, it's I would, it would, I mean, because I've done open mics on weaker stages than my own bed.
Stop. Oh my God. Is that kind of what your main focus is right now? Because I know we're talking about future projects and what you've been doing with your following. Is it more the focus of stand-up?
I think that for years I took some movies that I didn't want to take just because I needed the money to pay rent, or I wanted to get my bag up or whatever. And it's I still want to do that, but now I could be a little more choosy, because stand-up literally feeds me. So it's I don't have to worry. I'm in control of my own career. It's just me. I don't have to deal with any strong personalities. I come in and make people laugh for an hour and my job's done. So it's I feel really good about that, and it's a fun job to have, and I'm good at it. So I will always be doing stand-up. That doesn't mean that I don't want to do other forms of entertainment. I'd love to be on another TV show or another film, but like I said, I don't need things for clout anymore. So instead of I just dropped 2 bags of clout off at the Goodwill last week. I don't need it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm on your grandma's cell phone case at this point.
You really are.
And I'm the quote at the bottom of your boss's emails. Do you know what I'm saying? So those kind of things don't excite me as a human being in a way. Right. I mean, something really big and major obviously would, because it would give me more power to do the things that I want to do and the influence that I want to have. But I think the goal now is just to do really good things, to lead. I mean, a couple of the movies I made are going to be around forever. So it's I want to keep making movies that'll be around forever, not just small flashes in the pans. I'd rather do stand up and experience life and make my career that way, and have my cinema and television legacy be really strong things that I chose.
Yeah. There's still huge effects. I know I work out of a tattoo shop, and one of our other tattoo shops that we in our area, they literally did Friday the 13th flash, and Damien was one of them. And I was like, in the year of our Lord 2023, like millennials, you have like such a chokehold on it. And I was like, that's so, you don't need any more clout. You're right. Like you do get to now choose like what
I mean, I
you
would
want.
like to translate that a little more to my stand-up. Like, I feel like even some of my fans don't even realize that I do stand-up or have never seen it, you know? So
Yeah.
I recorded a little, I was on a comedy special this year, and I'm hoping to record my hour soon, so I finally do my first solo special and, you know, do stuff to like expand my audience's knowledge of the work that I do. Because, you know, you doing live theater, nobody sees it but the person who went to the play. So, you know, there's a lot of stuff that I do that's live that I would like to translate and record and for posterity and people being able to enjoy. So I guess that's a goal, you know, right now. But I'm still just trying to get better at everything I do. I've been in my career forever. I'm 45 years old, but I'm still in like voice lessons and I'm still reading acting books and I'm still like trying to get better and better and better and better. So I'm just all about like self-improvement in all areas and self-expression and representation. That's basically the main points of interest for me for everything I do.
Yeah. How do you feel like being a bigger person has like affected your career? Like, do you have any like kind of key points that you want to share?
Yeah, I think I've turned down more money in my career than I've made because I feel like earlier on in my career, like there was a lot of gay roles and a lot of fat roles that were just made fun of gay people or made fun of fat people that I just didn't take. You know, I remember there was a role on the show Ed, where it was an Overeat Anonymous episode, and someone stood up and said, you know, forget this, and took a sandwich out of his pocket and like ate it. And I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, you know what I mean? There was just like so many things I just was like, no, I'm not going to do that. You know, I never even seen Nanny Diaries, but in the script, she had like a roommate that was like in a feather boa with eyeliner and heels, and it was almost like transphobic, the character. And I was like, I just come off Damien, and they were like kind of like trying to get me to do this part, and I was like, no, it's just not for me. Like, it wasn't about me not wanting to play gay or not wanting to play fat. That's like so stupid. Like, I have to embrace those parts of me in order to like work.
Right.
But I think the reason I didn't work early on in my career is because those things were fat phobic and homophobic. It wasn't like I was not doing them because I didn't want to be seen that way. It was like, well, I've done things that are already, you know, pushing the envelope of making those things go forward. Damien was never called fat in the movie, you know,
Right.
you know, and he was only called gay once, and it was by his best friend. Like, and
Yeah.
it was a nice joke, kind of, that got turned into something wrong used against him. But I don't feel like there was any moment that he was called fat. You know, in other movies I'm in this movie Stateside, they never mentioned my weight at all. Like, you know, what's interesting is even in movies where they never mention my weight, like Mean Girls, you should look at the original reviews of Mean Girls and how everybody, the names that people called me, from obese to mountainous to her fat gay friend to like, and it's never a part of my story, but you know, every review that I ever get will mention my weight.
Right.
And
Oh.
I mean, now I'm like 45 years old. I don't even care. I do realize now that fat's also a signifier. Like, if you said that tall guy, would I be as like offended as if someone called me fat? I'm never offended when someone calls me fat anymore, unless the attention is like, you know, got vitriol in it. But like,
Yeah.
but you know, as an impressionable young person growing up and trying to fit in and be a part of like Who's the Cool Kids, and everyone's going out and being in just as big as movie as this one, but we're in, you know, but not being able to get past the velvet rope because they don't want a fat person in their club or
Right.
queer person in their club or whatever the situation was that they weren't letting me in back then. You know what I mean? Like, there was a lot of that going on. You know, I came from like a high school where, you know, I didn't have a kiss and didn't have a date, you know, to a world where like people were attracted to me, to a profession where I'm back in the high school zone, you know, and I didn't understand it. Because I'm like, in my actual life, I'm fine. You know, my sex life's great. Like, I, you know, have great relationships with people that are attracted to me of all different kinds of races and sizes and whatever. So it's like, why can't that be reflected in my characters? Like, my character's like, will you please kiss me? I'm like, what the like? I don't understand.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
like, why am I
I've never
begging?
said that in my life.
Right.
I mean, I love this movie I'm in, but in Kill Theory, like, my character's like begging Taryn Manning just for a kiss in case the killer kills us, so I have a kiss before we die. It's like, really? Like, it's that sad of a life for this person? Like, I doubt that. I really doubt that. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's just how those things are written all the time, you know, and it's like, I've got to just like do it, you know? I only hope that I like carry enough swagger and confidence in some of the earlier things of like those kind of movies and stuff where you can read that my character might have just been had a vulnerable moment, or I try to
Mm-hmm.
switch it in some way to kind of make it more palatable or look as handsome as I can.
I love that. Have you had any like experiences with coworkers in the past treating you differently because of your size?
Um, yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I don't really want to name anyone or pin anything out, but I'm sure I've
No, we
received some
wouldn't.
discrimination.
Hmm.
Like everybody does for some reason, right?
Yeah, I feel like it's just because we, as like in our lives, like I know even being in like the metaphysical or like spiritual community, Haley and I have talked about like we're both very spiritual. We both live very spiritual lives, and it's funny how it's even like in that community where you have like these amazing like love and light girlies, but then like they won't post a fat person on their Instagram. That way,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, okay, like you're accepting of everyone, like as long as they like look like you, but like you're
Oh
so
well,
in
I mean, my
alignment. Love you.
I have my podcast, Yas Jesus, which is like an exploration of faith for queer people. Like we just
Nice.
basically we either find the queer stories in biblical times, or we turn the story to how could this be applicable to a queer person's daily life. Like, and I mean
That's
that's
amazing.
essentially something where I get a lot of like pushback or flack for who I, even in the queer gay community, there's a whole queer gay community where they believe in side A or side B, which is like one side believes that you could be queer but not have sex and abstain, and one side believes you could be queer and have a full sex life. And we just call them side A hole and B hole because we're like, we think that everyone should be able to like experience pleasure and it not be something like we're very sex positive on our show. We curse, we're fully free, but we still talk about the Bible, and I think that freaks people out.
Yeah.
But I think people act some way Monday through Saturday and try to act some way different on Sunday. And it's
Hmm.
no different outside of the spiritual realm. Like people are like that in workplace, people are like that in artistic environments, people are like that in small clicky things. I even think I experienced some of it in the Mr. Bear LA pageant last night. There was people who were questioning my motives for wanting to enter, or it just doesn't matter like where you are, you're going to be discriminated, but you got to just keep showing up, you
Yes.
know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Everybody eats as long as you're sitting at the table with a plate. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so if you
yeah.
just you have to keep sitting at the table. To
Mhm.
use a fat analogy.
No,
But
I
you have
love it.
to, but if you sit at the table and you can stay at the table long enough, eventually you'll be served.
Haley, do you have any more questions for Danny?
I don't have any questions per se, but whenever you were mentioning the first reviews of Mean Girls, how everyone was discussing your size, it honestly reminded us of like, it reminded me of some comments that we would get, like, because our podcast is called the Plus Size Section and we are two fat women. It's like, is that the only thing you talk about? Is being fat and plus size. And it's like, well, even if we talked about the weather or puppies or whatever, like you guys would bring that into your comments anyway, just like they did with your reviews.
Sometimes I think, like I said, it's just a descriptor. They're like, her and her, fat friend, blah, 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 whatever. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
get that. Like,
Mhm.
Right.
but like, then there's other instances like Michael Musto who used to be from the Village Voice, and now I think he's independent. Like when he wrote, he knew who I was. He knows who I am. He's met me and my mother. He says hi to me if he sees me in public. But when he wrote the review of Mean Girls, he just said her fat friend, like her chubby friend. And I was like, huh, that's so interesting. You wouldn't even like put my name, the actor that played it, or you wouldn't even put my character's name. Like,
Yeah.
that's on purpose. Like there's people who just do things on purpose too, and you're like,
Mhm.
well, you just got to roll with the punches on those things. Like, they say in entertainment industry is not for the lighthearted, that you have to have the heart of a lion and the skin of a rhinoceros, and it's like,
Oh yeah.
it's so true. Like, I remember when I was a young preteen and someone would be like, hey, big guy. I'd be like, why does he say I'm big? Like, and it could have been
Yes.
that I was tall or like whatever. But I always felt like people saw fat before they saw me,
Mm-hmm.
and but then now if I read something and it's like, obese slob, I'm like, why didn't I go out for that? Like, like I could have played that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just saying,
Right.
like, I'm so desensitized at this point that nothing you could say about me could really hurt me. I'm also a comedian. So it's like,
Right.
please, like, come for me. Like, I don't even
Yeah.
care. Like, you know,
Yeah.
um, But even I was like that way even when I was a middle schooler. I think someone once called me Chunky Cheese, and I thought that shit was so fucking funny. I was like, man, that's funny.
My God, we
I was
had
like,
the same thing. Someone called us like the glutton gals, and we were like, pop off. Like,
yeah,
Haley is the Sagittarius of the podcast, so she gets them. Like, I'm the Libra. I'm like, oh no, like, let's not be mean. Haley, like, on our TikTok, she just reads these men to filth. Just sits there and is just like, yeah, let's talk about you, buddy. And I'm like, oh God, like, doesn't affect her at all.
I think I was playing like flag football once in like middle school, and someone was like, "Hey, Stretch Mark, come over here," and I thought that shit was so funny. I'm like people that you know what I mean. Like I'm just like sometimes I'm like, damn, that one was funny. Like
Yeah.
like I can
fuck
appreciate
you,
when
someone.
yeah, fuck you, but that shit was funny. I gotta remember that. Like, but yeah, I still remember it.
Impactful, but in a funny way.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up, is there anything that you would like our listeners to kind of take away with you being on our episode today?
I don't know if I really have a takeaway, but I just think that like remember, it's all in the confidence. I think, like I think, like a lot of my confidence came from lying to myself at first. I'd start to talk about the parts of my body I didn't like out loud in front of people, like I loved them. I'd be like, oh, stay away from, they ain't called handles unless anyone's grabbing onto them, baby. So come over here, like, and making jokes like that until I actually started liking parts of my body and touching them and being like, that's kind of hot. Like, So it's like, I guess, like, you lie to yourself and then people start to treat you differently because they go, oh, Danny don't fucks with that. Like, don't be talking about him that way. He loves himself. And so they don't even find the joke funny anymore. So they leave you alone. And then the next thing you know, the way they treat you makes you actually feel really confident. So I just think like, fake it till you make it.
Yeah,
absolutely. Speaking right into my heart. That was most of my teenage and college experience was faking it till I made it.
Well, thank you for being on with us today. Where can everyone find you?
You can find me at What's Up Danny on Instagram, Twitter, blackpeoplemeet.com, JDate, Farmers Only, Ashley Madison, and Venmo. And look for me doing stand-up in your neighborhood or the Big Fig Collective coming out with some cool stuff or, lots of other things coming out. So just keep a lookout. I'll be around entertaining.
Well, thank you again. It was such an honor to have you on here on our podcast. You were an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Is everyone okay?
Barely.
We
it was just like, oh, that was such an honor. Like a millennial honor.
It was the biggest millennial honor. And it was great because he's just a normal guy. It was just like hanging out, like you said. Like we were just hanging with Danny, just hanging out.
Just a trio of bros talking shop,
Which was
amazing.
It was chef's kiss.
It really was.
It was.
10 out of 10 would have him back anytime.
Anytime, Danny. Thank you. We were like, we wanted to film an outro for you guys, of course. And just say that we're so glad that you're here, that you are following us, and that we hope you enjoyed our special guest as much as we did, because we're still like,
we're definitely starstruck. But we would not have gotten this opportunity if not for the support and the sharing, the following of all of our listeners. So honestly, thank you guys so much for that. Y'all are a bunch of real ones, for sure.
Real ones. You really are. We love you guys so much. Next week's episode is gonna be Samhain. And I'm just like, wow, okay. So yeah, thank you so much, Haley. If someone is listening to our podcast for the very first time, because maybe they came here for Danny, where can they follow us and become members of our family?
So, if y'all are so inclined, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads at Plus Size Section, on TikTok at the Plus Size Section. If you have any thoughts about this episode, about how shockingly normal we were, or if you want to send us like personal stories or anything like that, you can shoot us an email at theplussizesection@gmail.com. While you're at it, you can give us a little follow, rating, a review on the podcast. Would be pretty sick. We love the engagement. And also share this podcast with your friends. Would also be sick.
All right, cool. Well, we'll see you guys for Halloween next week.
Bye, y'all.